video, I'm going to show you how easy it is to upcycle stuff you find at the thrift store, even in the trash, with the new Debi's Design Diary JRV one-step paints and Iron Orchid design products. Let's get started. First up is this box I found at a Goodwill store. I'm using Azure. It goes on so smooth. I am loving this bright turquoise color. If I did it again, I would have done a spray primer where that home was. I had to do several coats here. Now it dries really fast and really smooth, which makes it perfect for this IOD transfer while blooming. I am just going to fold it over the edges. I love the gridded lines. Pull the sticky back paper off and then use your hand to fully stick it. I like to get it in all the creases. Now pull up using the burnishing stick. Press and pull as you go. I'm dry fitting to see where I want these. And I love how it just adds this beautiful extra detail to my really inexpensive box. It looks like you painted it. I did all sides of it. I decided to paint the inside with some gold liquid patina because you can never have enough bling. This is where I sell DIY paint and IOD locally. It's a brand new store called Artisan Peacock. There's over 68 original artists and makers in this space. It's a family affair. It's two sisters and their mom. There is the most gorgeous stuff in here located in Brentwood, California at the streets of Brentwood. There's even this gorgeous plant section, which will soon feature some new IOD features with a transfer, so stop by. Next up is this cheap bucket. I spray primed it before I painted. This is what it looks like after. Can you believe the difference? After it's spray primed, I used Veranda. I had to do several coats because it is a non-porous surface. Sometimes painting metal, you'll find that you might need to use a little bit more paint. Once the paint dried, I decided to use the IOD Blossoms mold. Dust it with cornstarch to get your air dry clay to pop out easily. Turn it over and get rid of the excess. Now, when using the air dry clay, I like to make snakes with it. I'm going to use the entire mold. I used about a half a brick of clay for this. Once you have it all in, just use your finger and remove the excess. You want to make it level with those micro rim edges. This is going to give you a super clean casting. IOD products are the only one that have that. Now, make sure you wrap up your clay really tight. I like to use saran wrap and then put it in an airtight bag. You could even put a damp paper towel. This will prolong the life of your clay, keep it from drying out. And then put it in a Ziploc bag and take all the air out. It should last for a while. Now the fun part, let's decast this. Turn your mold upside down and let gravity help you. This one has a lot of little edges, so it's okay if there's some breakage in your pieces. Use your fingernail or like a little pointy stick to kind of edge it out. You can put it back together, and this mold is meant to create scenes as I'm doing here. Use Titebond wood glue, my favorite wood glue. You won't find that it slides down your project. It'll lock your molds in place right away. I love the way this scene is coming together. Be sure to press down the edges as it dries. The clay will shrink a little bit because the moisture in it is drying. Then I decided to use a combination of DIY paint, painterly paint, and clay paint. I added a little wax and I love the way it looks. Can you believe it was that same cheap bucket? Here's another look at Artisan Peacock. This is where I have a full selection of DIY paints and Iron Orchid design. You can see the projects there. Believe it or not, those things sold within an hour of me bringing them in. It is amazing what you can do with Iron Orchid design and DIY paint, and the new one step is so fun. Next project, I've had this wood box forever. I am going to paint it with a JRV one step in Garden Sage and using the multitasker. I love how much paint this uses. This brush goes over the rough wood so well, and look how smooth the paint is going on. In just a few coats, I'm going to have a brand new look. I'm using the Portofino inlay, so I'm going to use a generous amount of clear patina as my carrier medium. I placed these, but then I realized I put them on the wrong way, trying to figure out which way I wanted them to look. So you want to make sure that the paint side is down. So inlays are paint on paper. You want to put a generous amount of clear patina on and then place the inlay down. You can see I put this one on backwards. It's not going to work, but the rest will be placed with the paint side down. Once you place it down, don't move it, and then wet the back of it and allow it to almost dry. Don't skimp on the patina. You need a really generous amount to really activate the paint that is on the inlay. You could also just put this into wet paint. I've tried both procedures. I really prefer the clear patina as I feel like you get a better impression. The trick is to just make sure that you pull it up before the patina is totally dry. Otherwise, you might have a little bit of a hard time getting those inlays back up again. Once you have the inlay down, be sure to wet it thoroughly. I like to use a spray bottle and a damp paper cloth and allow it to almost dry before you pull it up. Look how beautiful this is. And again, this sold within an hour of me bringing it into Artisan Peacock. So, full disclosure, I have not washed my hair in 2 days. I did this entire video yesterday, edited it, got it all together, and it got corrupted. I paid someone on Fiverr to fix it and it couldn't be fixed. So it's Sunday morning. I'm getting ready to go to church soon. This video is due by the end of the day and I have had to recreate the whole thing. So sometimes things go south, but that's okay. They can still be salvaged. Next, my $2.99 tray from Goodwill. I have this gross old tray that I found at a Goodwill in Berkeley, California while we were waiting for our Thai food. It's great. We always have to wait for Thai food there. Shout out to M Thai. If we have to wait, I always go to the Goodwill next door, which happens to be open a little bit later. I am going to paint this with Honey, a new color. This is where my dilemma is. I can't decide if I should use this inlay, Grisaille, which is so pretty, or if I should use the IOD Veranda stamp over it. I'm gonna paint it first and then I'll decide. I'm using Honey for this. Be sure to stir the one step really thoroughly as there's a top coat built in. I'm using my multitasker. I love this brush. It gets big flat surfaces really easily and it gets into all the details of that basket weave edge. It's the perfect go-to brush for many of your bigger projects. I decided to use the Grisaille inlay. This is a toile pattern inlay and each sheet actually goes with another sheet to make a complete scene. I am trimming it to fit this and there is a leaf where you can see it will match up. I love the inlays and transfers have gridded lines which make it super easy to make the piece line up straight on your project. So I am going to just dry fit it and then I'm going to figure out where that leaf meets and I'm just going to trim a little of the excess there so when I put them down together it will be one complete scene. I'm using a really generous amount of the DIY Paint Clear Patina as my carrier medium here. There's a dog hair in there, bane of my existence. Don't skimp on this. Use more and you will get a better end result. So I'm just going to generously put this down and then put my inlay down. I like to mist the back of the inlay with water. I find that if it's like decoupage paper, it will stretch a little bit and make it easier to manipulate and get that piece down. Once you put your inlay down, don't move it. As soon as that paint on the back of the inlay makes contact with your wet medium, it's going to activate. You don't want to move it. Go slowly and you will be rewarded with an absolute gorgeous end result. Okay, I am ready to put the paper down. So make sure the paint side is down onto your wet patina and I'm using my finger to just smooth it in. You're going to use your mister to get it wet after and let it dry, almost dry. The patina is almost dry. I'm re-wetting it with a mister and I'm going to carefully pull this straight up. You can't believe how rewarding this feels. I love the way this looks. I'm going to set those two pieces aside because I can definitely use it again. There is enough paint left on it. Again, the inlays are like 2-3 times you can get more paint off of them. I love the way that turned out. That cloudy look's going to dry. Here I am in my garage. It's quite a mess, but I want to find the next project. So I am sidestepping between my car because I can still get my car in here, believe it or not. I gotta move this chair out of the way. Okay, so I'm not sure what all that stuff is on the ground there, but let's move this out of the way. What I want is under these pillows. This is a great place to store my patio pads. Uh-oh, there goes another one. Normal people probably put these in, I'm gonna put that up on that chair, in bags and store them away. We just threw them in the garage. Look at this, you guys. Out of control. Someone help me. Okay, that table I want down there. Yeah, I got this at Goodwill. So let's move this stuff off of it and hope we don't cause a landslide avalanche of furniture. Here she is, and I am going to paint this with one of the new DIY paint colors. Decided to go with Plaster. Again, stir it really thoroughly before you get started. I'm ready to get the second coat on this. I absolutely love the way the first coat of the Plaster JRV Cottage Color, the one-step paint, it is so smooth. Now, I kind of debated whether to sand the top because it was a little uneven. It went on so smooth. It feels really good. I'm not gonna need to put a top coat on it. It dried very fast, even though it's kind of wet and cold out. I'm gonna put the second coat on. I'm gonna show you my favorite brush to use for the round part of the legs. The DIY Paint Little Dipper brush is by far my favorite. It holds a ton of paint, but it is great for round surfaces like chair spindles and table legs. It can get in all the crevices. It's also amazing for detail on your furniture. You will be able to complete your projects in no time. These are by far my favorite brushes. You gotta try them if you don't have them in your toolkit. Okay, my table's dry. I am going to put some of this new IOD stamp on. This is the Shade and Song stamps. This is the stamp. When you open a new IOD stamp, you wanna just rough it up a little bit. So I use a piece of 220 grit sandpaper. And whoops, you don't drop it on the floor. You want to just scuff it, basically. So you're not hurting the stamp. What you're doing here is you're making it so the ink medium can more fully stick to it. It's just like a super glossy piece of furniture. Sometimes roughing it up a little bit will allow the paint to stick to it. This is the same principle. So you just want to get that like super shiny off of it. Now this, all the stamps now come with, it's called a mask. This allows you to create really cool scenes. I will do a little tutorial on this, how it works. Whatever you want to have on top, basically, of your picture, like the main thing, you work backwards, if that makes sense. So we'll go through it. I'm gonna start with the main tree part of the Shade and Song stamp. I fully inked it up and I'm using the tips of my fingers to press it down and pull straight up. Now I'm gonna put the mask on. This is gonna keep the additional pieces I'm adding to this tree from looking muddy. You can see how that really comes together. The masks are super fun. Can you believe the before and afters? Under $10 got me these gorgeous projects with a little bit of DIY paint and iron orchid design. You can create gorgeous decor on practically no time and money. I hope you like this video. Please like and subscribe. Link to the products I use below, and find me locally at Artisan Peacock in Brentwood.